explain why sometimes exercises and sometimes even any movement can increase low back pain.
Jane, tell me, you've been having some back pain. So what happened? And tell me, when did you start experiencing this back pain? And how long have you been having back pain, please? Can I have some information? Yeah.
I was gardening and I picked up some heavy pots. It was probably around 6 months ago, and I just sort of knelt down, picked up these pots, and felt this pain in my back.
Right. Have you ever experienced back pain before, or was it this the first time that you experienced back pain?
No, this was the first time. I've had aches and pains, but nothing like this. It was a pain rather than just an old age ache, as I call it.
Right. You say you are 58 years old.
Yes,
Right.
58.
Okay. And sorry, I have just to ask you, you have any problems with your waterworks or bowels, or they are all okay?
No, they're fine. No problem at all.
Okay. And the pain is only in your back, or does it go down into your legs?
No, it's just in my back, into my lower back. That's where it's concentrated.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. And what makes, I mean, is it the activity makes it worse? And when you lie down at night, the pain gets better, or when you lie down, the pain is better?
When I've tried exercise, that seems to make it worse.
Right.
Laying down, it doesn't actually go away completely, but it does improve it a bit.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. So what are the, so you were doing some stretching exercises, were you?
Yes. I sort of thought, well, I'll just try some exercises, and it just seemed to make it worse. It just seemed to not improve it at all.
Right. Okay. Let's go through it sequentially. I mean, looking at your story, let me summarize. You're a 58-year-old lady, 58 or 57?
58.
58-year-old lady. For the last 6 months, you've been experiencing back pain, and it's only in the back. There is no pain down your legs, and you have no issues with your waterworks or bowels. You were referred to physiotherapy by your general practitioner. You did some physiotherapy, but unfortunately, you went back taking those exercises. But every time you do those exercises, you are experiencing further pain, and that has not given you any confidence about why you are experiencing pain. And you're fairly active, but still you're worried why you are experiencing pain.
Yes,
in your back.
I'm still working, and I'm a keen gardener, and this back pain is stopping me doing all sorts of things. Right. So I'm worried about it.
Right. Okay. No, I can understand. Let us go through a few things. Now, I'm going to give you a few metaphors to help you understand your pain, and then we will go through some exercises and why you are experiencing this increased pain, and what are the right type of exercises you may need to do to make this pain better. Now, the first thing I want to say is so in this play, I'm going to ask you a few questions and you need to give me responses. And I'm sorry if any of my metaphors offend you. It's not meant to offend you. It is only trying to explain and find metaphors help in patient understanding. That's why I'm going to give you these metaphors. First of all, I want to ask you, if I have 100 soldiers and 50 are fit soldiers and 50 are unfit soldiers, in the battlefield, who is going to survive?
The fit soldiers.
Exactly. So you're right. So in the battlefield, the fit soldiers are going to survive. So if soldiers need some fitness, even a gardener or someone doing an occasional gardening also requires fitness. Just because I give a gun to a person, he doesn't immediately become a soldier. He needs some training. He needs some fitness before he can go into the battlefield, because otherwise he's just going to get injured in the battlefield. Same way, even for a gardener, they need some fitness. And unfortunately, this happens when you're occasionally gardening. If you were gardening every day, you are a farmer, it wouldn't be much of a problem because every day, you're gardening and your back is fit. But say, suppose you're in a desk-based day's job and you're gardening only occasionally, then sometimes unaccustomed activity your back may not be able to withstand, and that is when you have an injury, and that is when the pain occurs. So let me, what best I can do is let me share you a short presentation, and then we'll take it from there. Yeah. If you give me 1 minute while I open the presentation. I hope you can see this screen. So what this is showing is that soldier needs fitness. And unfortunately, just as I explained, just having a gun and a person doesn't become a soldier. He needs to go through some training process. And that is when they become soldiers. And, you need that fitness. So let's look at, and you said that how you were experiencing severe pain when you were doing the exercises. I can give you an answer why that may be happening. So let's look at a car engine, and that may give us some understanding. Now, in a car engine, there are 4 gears. So usually when we start the car, and when I tell you, when I've got a manual car, it goes, the first I need to put it in the first gear, and then the car moves slowly forward. Then after the first gear, I move on to the second gear. It moves slightly more quicker. Then after the second gear, I move to the third gear. It moves even quicker. And then finally, I put the 4th gear, and the car engages and moves forward. But unfortunately, if there is a problem with my gearbox, and every time I try to engage the gear, instead of the first gear falling, if it doesn't fall, but there is some mistake in the mechanism of the gearbox that the 4th gear falls, then the car is not going to move and it is going to stall. So we are not going to move forward at all. And something similar like that may be happening in your back. And let me explain what that could be. So this is a cross section of the back, including the abdomen. So this is through your entire trunk where your tummy is. So you can see this is your entire body, your whole trunk. And these are the skin. These are the muscles around your belly. And here at the back, so it's a cross section. You're looking from top down or bottom up. And here is your vertebrae or the spinal column. And this is the spinal canal through which the spinal cord and the nerves are traveling. Around the vertebrae and the spinal column, there are muscles, multiple muscles, and they are arranged in layers, and somehow they act like gears. The muscle that is closest to the spine is called the multifidus muscle, and the muscles that are outside are in layers. So the first closest muscle is the multifidus, next is the longissimus spinae, and then it's the iliocostalis, and I have not marked here, but this is the quadratus lumborum. But before these muscles act, the first muscle that needs to come into play is the multifidus muscle. But because they are the muscle that is closest to the spine, they are very small and just link from one vertebrae to the other. The other muscles, the bigger muscles, link multiple vertebrae and cross many vertebrae together. Now, the important thing is the spine needs stability before it can move. So these small muscles have to hold the spine because the entire spinal column, now we have about 31 different segments, and each is a separate segment. Now, each segment has to be held in alignment with the next segment. That is when they can move. If they are not held in alignment and then you move it, it is like causing more pain because abnormal forces are transmitted. It can only slowly. It is like suddenly when you're on a motorbike, if you put a sudden acceleration, the front wheel is going to go up. It is going to jackknife. So that shouldn't happen. So for that, the inner muscles have to act first, then the outer muscles. But unfortunately, when you have had back pain, the inner muscles become weak, like this, as I've shown you here. The multifidus, and the multifidus is very commonly becomes weak, and that is the usual problem. And when the multifidus becomes weak, and then you do any movement, the other muscles start to work. Actually, the other muscles try to overcompensate, and they are working more than what they would normally work. But because the small muscles are not stabilizing each segment by segment, and the larger muscles are working, they are putting an abnormal force across the vertebral column, and the pain is increased. So that is what may be happening. Now, in a car, if this happens, it is easy. If there is a problem with the gearbox, you can go to the garage and they will change the gearbox. But in the human body, it is not easy to change those muscles, and we need to get them to working better. So how can we change it so that these muscles, the smaller muscles, will retrain and fire and not be weak? And number two, they need to fire sequentially. It's not just the strength of the muscles, it is the sequence in which they fire. They have to come into play first, like how the first gear has to play before the fourth gear. So this muscle, so how do we do that? The way to do that is called pulling the belly button to the spine. So when I have drawn here now two muscles, this muscle on the inner side. So there are three muscles that cover the entire belly or the abdomen. You have the external oblique, which is the outer muscle. Then you have the internal oblique, which is the second layer of the muscle. And the last one is the transversus abdominis. There seems to be some nervous connection between the transversus abdominis and the multifidus. So we cannot, like I can bend my arm, I can't contract my multifidus. But what we know from research is if you activate the transversus abdominis, or this green muscle here, it also activates the multifidus muscle. So that is the exercise we need to do. And you can activate the transversus abdominis by a simple exercise called pulling the belly button to the spine. So all you have to do, you can do it while you're sitting, you can do it while you're driving a car. If you are, cooking and you have some free time, you're waiting to see the water boil or the eggs cook, you can do this. All you need to do, pull the belly button towards your spine and hold for a count of 10. So let me give you, pull it up, and I'm doing it now. I'm pulling my belly button towards my spine and I'm counting 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that is one, doing once, pulling the belly. And every time you do that, the multifidus is also contracting. And slowly over a period of time, you can get the multifidus to contract more and more, and it will start, the loss of strength in the multifidus is built up, and that is how it is going to work. Does that make sense, Jane?
Yes, it certainly does. Yeah, that makes it very clear.
So
Thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe to our channel. If you need further information, please visit one of the following websites: easethespine.com, ampat.co.uk, and freefrompain.org.uk.